The news broke with stunning speed. Within minutes, television networks interrupted their regular programming with reports that would soon dominate headlines across the globe. Multiple news organizations confirmed that pop icon Michael Jackson had suffered a medical emergency at his Los Angeles home. Emergency responders had rushed to the residence after receiving a 911 call, but when paramedics arrived, they found that the singer was no longer breathing. For millions of people watching those first reports unfold, disbelief came long before acceptance. It felt impossible that someone whose music had defined generations could suddenly be gone. Among those left speechless was Madonna. She later revealed that she had been in London, only days away from launching her own world tour. In a strange twist of fate, Michael was preparing to perform at the very same venue just 1 week later as part of his highly anticipated comeback concerts. Instead of thinking about rehearsals or opening night, Madonna found herself overwhelmed by guilt. She wondered whether the world had failed one of its brightest stars. Looking back, she admitted that it felt as though everyone had abandoned a remarkable artist who had once captivated audiences everywhere, allowing him to quietly slip through the cracks. On June 25, 2009, the uncertainty lasted only a short time. News helicopters circled above the hospital as fans gathered outside, desperately hoping for encouraging updates. Those hopes were crushed when doctors confirmed the heartbreaking truth. Michael Jackson had died at the age of 50 after suffering cardiac arrest. The announcement spread with astonishing speed, and within hours every major news channel was covering the story. Late that evening, special broadcasts replaced normal programming. One of the most watched came from Larry King Live, where viewers heard the official statement released by UCLA Medical Center. According to the announcement, Michael Jackson passed away on Thursday, June 25, 2009, at 2:26 p.m., after suffering what was believed to be cardiac arrest at his home. The words were simple, but their impact was enormous. Around the world, people struggled to process the loss of an entertainer whose influence reached nearly every corner of popular culture. As news spread across continents, reactions poured in from fellow musicians, actors, producers, and public figures. Some had collaborated with Michael throughout his extraordinary career. Others had simply grown up admiring him from afar. Yet despite their different relationships with him, many shared the same first response: complete disbelief. Inside the Jackson family, the pain was immediate. Michael's brother spoke publicly only hours after the tragedy, confirming the heartbreaking news while trying to remain composed. His words carried the weight of unimaginable grief as he repeated the details that had already begun echoing across television screens worldwide. Even for those closest to Michael, saying the words aloud made the loss feel almost impossible to accept. Whitney Houston found herself struggling with that same disbelief. Her connection to Michael stretched back nearly 20 years. She knew not only the superstar but also the Jackson family, creating countless memories that extended far beyond award shows and recording studios. When Oprah Winfrey later asked how Michael's passing had affected her, Whitney admitted that her first instinct had been to reject the news entirely. She simply could not believe it. She described Michael as someone unlike anyone she had ever known. His unique personality, extraordinary talent, and gentle spirit made him unforgettable. The realization that such a remarkable person had died so suddenly filled her with profound sadness. Even months later, she still found it difficult to speak about him without emotion. For legendary singer Smokey Robinson, the moment remains permanently etched into his memory. He was spending the day with a real estate broker, casually looking at properties, when his wife called him. Her voice was trembling so intensely that he could barely understand what she was saying. At first he assumed something had happened to a family member. Then she managed to tell him that Michael Jackson had died. Smokey's immediate response was disbelief. He repeatedly asked, "Michael who?" When she answered, "Michael Jackson," he refused to believe it. He later admitted that hearing those words felt like an overwhelming shock that completely shattered him. Having known Michael since childhood, he couldn't imagine a world without him. The emotional impact became so intense that Smokey eventually broke down in tears, describing the loss as something that truly broke his heart. Producer Quincy Jones experienced a different kind of heartbreak. Their professional partnership had transformed popular music forever. Together, they created Off the Wall, Thriller, and Bad, albums that permanently changed the entertainment industry. But Quincy insisted their relationship went much deeper than producer and performer. They shared a friendship built on trust, creativity, and mutual respect. What troubled Quincy most was Michael's age. At 76 years old himself, Quincy never expected to outlive the artist he considered almost like family. He spoke openly about being trapped in denial, unable to accept that Michael had died while he remained alive. Reflecting on their years together, Quincy explained that their creative connection felt almost spiritual. The music they created during the 1980s came from an extraordinary bond that he believed could never truly be duplicated. Despite the sadness, Quincy remembered Michael as someone who carried an infectious enthusiasm through much of his life. That memory only made the loss more painful. Fighting back emotion, he admitted how deeply he missed his little brother and confessed that he still couldn't fully comprehend that Michael was no longer there. For Beyoncé, the loss carried a deeply personal meaning. Long before she became one of the world's biggest performers, she had been a young girl captivated by Michael Jackson's concerts and music videos. Watching him perform inspired her own dreams of becoming an entertainer. His influence shaped not only her stage presence, but also her understanding of what was possible in live performance. While traveling on her I Am World Tour later that year, Beyoncé decided she could not continue without honoring the man who had inspired her. During one emotional concert, she paused the show to speak directly to the audience. She recalled the unforgettable night she first watched Michael perform live, describing it as the moment she truly experienced the magic that only he could create. She then asked thousands of fans to raise their lighters, glow sticks, and mobile phones into the air. The arena transformed into a sea of lights as everyone joined together to celebrate Michael's life rather than simply mourn his death. It became one of the most emotional tributes of the tour, reminding audiences that his influence continued to shine through every performer he had inspired. Chris Brown expressed his admiration in a different way. At the BET Awards nearly 1 year after Michael's passing, he recreated several of Jackson's iconic dance routines with remarkable precision. At first, Chris appeared completely focused, delivering each move with confidence and control. But everything changed when the music shifted to Man in the Mirror. As he attempted to sing the song, the emotions he had been holding back suddenly overwhelmed him. Unable to continue, Chris broke down on stage, leaving the audience in stunned silence. His tears reflected what many fans had been feeling ever since Michael's death, a sense that an irreplaceable chapter in music history had come to an end. While many tributes centered on grief, Jay-Z offered a different perspective. Speaking to a live audience, he urged people not to wait until someone was gone before expressing appreciation. Michael's death, he argued, should remind everyone to celebrate those they admire while they are still alive. Although Jackson's albums returned to the top of the charts after his passing, Jay-Z believed the greater gift would have been for Michael himself to witness that renewed love and appreciation. His message resonated far beyond music. Rather than focusing solely on mourning, Jay-Z encouraged people to value the relationships and artists who shaped their lives before it is too late, a lesson that Michael Jackson's passing had brought painfully into focus. Madonna's tribute became one of the most memorable responses to Michael Jackson's passing. Standing before thousands of fans in London, she reflected on the complicated relationship the world had with the king of pop. She reminded the audience that while Michael had once been celebrated as one of the greatest entertainers in history, he had also spent years living under relentless criticism and public scrutiny. Looking back after his death, she couldn't help wondering whether society had forgotten the extraordinary human being behind the headlines. She spoke candidly about the years Michael spent trying to rebuild both his career and his personal life. Instead of offering compassion, many people had focused on judging him. After hearing of his death, Madonna found herself watching old performances online, revisiting the concerts and television appearances that had once amazed audiences around the world. Each clip reminded her that Michael possessed something impossible to imitate. His creativity, originality, and stage presence were unlike anyone before or since. As she reached the end of her tribute, Madonna emphasized that although Michael had been crowned the king of pop, he was also simply a human being. Like everyone else, he experienced pain, loneliness, and vulnerability. Sometimes, she said, people only recognize someone's true value after they are gone. It was a heartbreaking realization that resonated with millions watching around the world. She ended on a hopeful note by sharing a personal story about her own children. Despite belonging to a younger generation, they had become fascinated with Michael's music and performances. Moonwalking across the house and imitating his famous dance moves had become part of their daily lives. To Madonna, that proved Michael's legacy would continue long after his passing. New generations were discovering the same magic that had inspired millions decades earlier. Wherever he might be, she hoped he knew his music was still bringing joy to children everywhere. Usher also struggled to separate Michael's influence as an entertainer from the man he had personally known. Like countless performers of his generation, Usher credited Michael with helping shape modern pop and R&B performance. Yet his admiration extended beyond the stage. He had shared memorable moments with Michael and even performed alongside him, experiences he considered some of the greatest honors of his career. When speaking publicly about the loss, Usher acknowledged that nearly every artist working in the modern music industry owed something to Michael Jackson. His influence reached far beyond hit records. He transformed the very definition of live entertainment. Still, Usher reminded everyone that behind the legendary reputation was a grieving family facing an unimaginable loss. He offered heartfelt condolences to Michael's mother, his children, and the millions of fans mourning across the globe, describing the tragedy as one that affected virtually everyone. Justin Timberlake viewed Michael's impact through the memories he had created for people around the world. Although Justin treasured the opportunities he had to meet